And you're welcome back. It's 9:44, New Year's Eve. It's our last show of the year, so let's have a look back at all the highs and lows of the year. I'm joined in studio now by Abie Philbin Bowman. Abie, very good morning. Good to see you.
How you doing?
I'm not too bad. It is this time of year and we have to look back at politics, I suppose, don't we?
It's great for me because this is the time of year when, as a comedian, you get to rehash all of your topical jokes from the year and kind of go through them one last time before you say goodbye to them forever.
Let's start. I suppose we'll start down in the Dáil.
Indeed. Well, I mean, I think it was Karl Marx who said that history repeats itself first as tragedy, then as farce. And of course, 90 years ago this year, we had the Civil War, terrible thing, huge row over the Anglo-Irish Treaty. And this year, we had the fascinating EU fiscal treaty referendum. And to commemorate the whole thing, Fianna Fáil decided to split into two factions. So you had a pro-treaty side, led by a Cork man called Michael, and an anti-treaty side, led by a tall fellow with glasses called Eamon. And true to form, the pro-treaty side won, and then the anti-treaty side fell in line in the hopes that Eamon might someday assume power. And these historical parallels were not lost on one of our parliamentarians, as we will hear now.
Isn't it ironic, Cathaoirleach, the way history repeats itself? Because Deputy Martin isn't the first Cork man to be shot in the back by a De Valera. And it happened 90 years ago.
Yeah.
One of the better moments.
It was indeed. I actually managed to gate crash the Fianna Fáil Ardèche this year and got photographed with Bertie Ahern, and my t-shirt said I marched in the Dáil and all I got was this lousy Taoiseach. So it managed to get into a couple of the tabloids. That was quite a nice moment, just at a personal level. But yes, that was the fascinating, the EU fiscal treaty referendum. I promised you jokes on the EU fiscal treaty referendum.
You did indeed.
That's as far as we got, to be honest.
Well, let's stick with politics and all things European politics and Jedward.
Well, we actually kind of, in a way, we got our own back on the whole EU fiscal, because they say about these treaties, they keep sending them back to us till we get the right result. We've got our own Jedward. That's our version of the Lisbon Treaty. We keep sending them to Eurovision until we get the right results. So Jedward has a second crack at Eurovision this year.
Yeah, and let's hear about Jedward's epic performance in Europe. I know, I don't want to say it, but I'm really getting tired of Jedward.
Really? You think you're the only one?
I know, but you really can't say, because every time every time we're in this building here now, there's a crowd of girls outside, yes. And I like to think it's for me.
Well, you're not an 8-year-old girl, so you're not their target market, clearly, which is fine. I actually think we're misusing Jedward. I think we should be sending Jedward to negotiate with the IMF, because I think half an hour with Jedward, the IMF would give us whatever we wanted, okay? And half an hour with Jedward, Vincent Browne and Joan Burton, we would own Germany. Yeah? Genuinely, I mean that. And I actually think as a country we kind of missed a trick, even as a continent during Eurovision, because if we'd all got together as a people and voted for Greece, then this year in 2013 the Greeks would throw this massive party and Angela Merkel would have had to pay for it. What kind of a message would that have sent as a moment of solidarity? So I think we're misusing Jedward, but I don't know. I don't want to have a go at Vincent particularly, because I mentioned it there. I think he's kind of like Jeremy Paxman on asthma. And I shouldn't have a go at Joan Burton, because she's genuinely one of our better politicians, but I just hope she never gets a job answering phones for the Samaritans, because it's not a good outcome for anyone, really. But anyway, so it's been a strange year. What else? There were a few other things that sort of.
Well, it was a great sporting year. It was yes. A good end to the
sporting year. Great from Irish point of view. I mean, we didn't do great in the rugby. We didn't do great with the soccer. Certainly wasn't brilliant. We're drawn in Group C, which is quite tough. I think the C stood for Catholic, because we were in with Spain and Italy and Croatia, all of whom are left-footers, and ourselves. But actually, if you look back on it, I mean, people talk about the great Irish fans and what brilliant fans we have, singing 37 verses of the Fields of Athenry in a row, with 37 choruses and not a single verse, I should say. But no, the thing that got me was like if we look at the fans, you're thinking, no, clearly they're trapped in an abusive relationship and no one's told them, because they're just being let down repeatedly, and yet they still keep turning up and singing. But actually, on balance, we didn't do too badly, because in the final we had Spain and Italy, who we were both up against, and in the semi-final Italy beat Germany 2-0 and they beat us 2-0, so we played as well as Germany. And in the final Spain beat Italy 4-0 and they beat us 4-0, so we played as well as Italy and Germany, which I think is quite a good result as a country.
I like where you're going.
We can just spin any results as it wasn't too bad at all.
But you had the Olympics as well.
The Olympics,
Katie.
Yes.
She's awesome.
Katie Taylor is fantastic, yes. We might be rubbish at soccer and sprinting and pole vaulting and show jumping, but we are world champions at punching women in the head. Isn't that brilliant? What a great sporting honour for our country. Should we hear that?
Ladies and gentlemen, the The winner by a score of 17 points to 9 in the red corner.
It doesn't matter how many times you hear it, it's still just brilliant.
No, it was wonderful. And I think it's important to remember when someone like Katie wins, remember the little people who made this moment special, like Fianna Fáil and Anglo-Irish Bank, who made sure there were so many Irish emigrants in London to cheer Katie on to victory. You know, let's not forget them. Were you watching much of the Olympics? Did you see dressage?
The city horse dancing.
It's brilliant. If you didn't see it, dressage, it's synchronized horse dancing to elevator music. It's the most ridiculous sport ever. And the only good thing I'll say first is at least now you know why horses take ketamine. But it was just the most mental thing. If you just Google, honestly, on YouTube later, just dressage, it's truly bizarre. There was also a moment when an Australian sports presenter claimed that Ireland should play with Team GB. Did you hear that?
I did.
It was one of these typical sort of sports presenters trying to be obnoxious and therefore get attention to themselves. Not something that nobody who listens to Newstalk would know anything about, particularly between the hours of 4:30 and 7 p.m. every evening. But this particular guy, I mean, he said basically we should all play together in one big team, and he said, you know, you do it for the Six Nations. And it's like, well, no, we don't. Like Team GB doesn't even play with Team GB in the Six Nations. That's why there's 6 of us. I'd love to know what he thinks the Six Nations are. I think in his head they're probably, you know, France, Italy, Great Britannia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Mordor, and possibly West Germany. I mean, I just don't know what planet the guy's living on. And I wouldn't have minded if he'd been, you know, Mexican or North Korean, because I don't follow their national sports, particularly of cross-border swimming or long-distance starvation. But, like, he was Australian. He's meant to actually know about rugby, you know? So I found that a bit weird. And he said we should all join together. And it made me think, if we were going to join with Britain and have one big team, what could we call it? Because we'd need a name which the Brits wouldn't notice as any different, but we would know was significantly more Irish. And I was thinking, how about if we called it Grand Britain? Would that work? Would that be sort of half, you know, it's bigger and it's, anyway, I don't know. It just struck me as a possibility.
Let's move on to foreign affairs. Big year in foreign affairs.
Absolutely. Lots of things happening in foreign affairs. I mean, the American, obviously loads of in America, but before I get onto them, thing that I really struck me was that the punk band in Russia, the Pussy Riot, who were locked up. There were 3 women campaigning against Vladimir Putin's brutal ongoing midlife crisis. And I don't know if you've been keeping notes on this, but he's been flying weird little planes. He's shot a tiger somewhere, riding bare-chested around Siberia, married a 20-something-year-old Russian gymnast. He's just properly, you know, full-on midlife crisis, and these girls stood up to it, which was brilliant. And then, in a shock move, one of them was released. And I wondered if thankfully it wasn't the prettiest of the 3, because the prettiest one of them had been released, then Western media interest would have plummeted completely. But thankfully she's still in prison, so we can all still pay attention and pretend to care. I was actually doing a weird festival the week that Pussy Riot got locked up, and I came on stage wearing a Pussy Riot mask it was in the middle of Yorkshire actually, and everyone went crazy because it was quite topical at the time. And then I thought, Jesus, things have really changed. You know, in 2012 you've got a crowd tent full of English people cheering on an Irishman in a balaclava. Like, that's progress, you know? So it was bright pink, so it was sort of partly for Pussy Riot and partly in solidarity with the gay, lesbian, transgender wing of the Provisional IRA, who are the only splinter group dedicated to cherishing all the children of the nation equally.
We also had, I mean, very serious now, riots in the Muslim world over a certain film.
Yes, indeed. Well, that was very unfortunate, because it's another chance for the media to basically project all Muslims as if they're all kind of crazy flag-burning Islamic terrorists, which is nonsense, because there are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. So even if there were 16 million, you know, crazed flag-burning Al-Qaeda suicide bombers, that would be 1% of Islam. And there is nowhere near 16 million, and the number of suicide bombers is going down all the time.
What was your moment of the year?
Oh God, I haven't thought of that. I have no idea whatsoever. I mean, I kind of love elections. I'm a bit of an election nerd. I really enjoyed the US, the whole long form US election. I was following it from January. The really mad bit at the beginning of the year where the Republicans are picking between their different candidates, because you've got, you know, lunatics like Rick Santorum. There was a lovely moment actually where Newt Gingrich said people were bringing trash from his personal life into politics, and it was despicable and the most disgusting thing he ever saw. I'm thinking, this is the bloke who went on and on about Monica Lewinsky. Lewinsky. Like, I remember this back when I was a kid. And the really hilarious thing is it's since transpired that while the whole Monica Lewinsky thing was going on, Newt Gingrich was having an affair himself. And he said he used what he was doing in his affair to catch President Bill Clinton out. So it wasn't an affair. He was just doing research, apparently. So that was his excuse. But the whole election, you had mental people like Rick Santorum, who actually looked like a credible possible president, who said things like Satan is attacking America. And you're thinking, does that mean you're going to go to war with Satan? I mean, with a ground invasion of hell?